I like having fun, I like working hard, I like achieving. I also like caring about people. I want all of that. So when I'm in senior leadership roles, how do I foster, co-create an environment, a culture where we can all have all of it?
Welcome to Women We Should Know with international speaker, mindset reset mentor, author, and your host, Leslie Michaels. With audacious honesty and candor, the Women We Should Know podcast presents the wisdom and life-empowering insights of women who are the embodiments of innovation and social evolution. Please join Leslie as she shares potent conversations that will inspire your personal and professional evolutions.
Welcome back to Women We Should Know, the podcast where we consistently bring you the voices, the audacity, the courage, and the change-making perspectives of women around the world, women who do not color inside of the lines, who will not climb inside of boxes that were created by someone else, who are not only making their own way, but they are lighting the path with every step to give others clarity and a sense of comfort in moving out of their boxes, moving out of their lines. And it is always a privilege to be able to have these conversations, and even more so, to be able to bring them to you. Today, we have yet another amazing woman. Lynne Sedgmore is chair of the Glastonbury Town Deal, leading an investment of nearly £25 million for the town. She is a certified coach and organizational community consultant working freelance. She works with CEOs, chairs, senior leaders, and teams from the education, faith, charity, health, community, sport, and private sectors. There's no stopping her. She's out there doing it all. She also sits on the boards of Glaston Center, the Center for Responsible Leadership USA, and the International IAMSR. Lynne chaired the UK Interfaith Foundation and was a trustee of Anne Frank UK. With a long career as a non-executive director while also serving on 25 boards, Lynne specializes in fostering high-performing and self-aware leaders. Now, that is something we can all vote for more of, is self-aware leaders. Lynne combines academic rigor and practical organizational experience as a CEO, alongside powerful insight, emotional intelligence, rapport, and the ability to be deeply present to individual and organizational needs. As any of us who have been out in the business world know, organizational needs come first, second, and third, and only if there is a crumb left are the personal needs considered. So it is wonderful that she is taking a different turn on this and putting the individual needs front and center. We'll be speaking about that today. She has an MSc in Change Agent Skills and Strategies and a doctorate in leadership of high-spirited, high-performing cultures. Lynne's organizations have won numerous national and international awards, including International Spirit at Work Award, the British Diversity Award. She was awarded the CBE in 2004 for services to further education and was named one of Debrett's, I may or may not be saying that correctly, 500 most influential people in the UK in 2015. The following year, 2016, she was named one of the UK's 100 Women of Spirit. She founded the Goddess Luminary Leadership Wheel teachings and authored the Goddess Luminary Leadership Wheel book in 2021. She is a published poet, priestess of Avalon, and ordained interfaith minister, So she has got a lot going on. She is definitely out there making changes and shaking things up. And I am so delighted that we have the opportunity to speak with her today. So, hi, Lynne. Welcome to Women We Should Know.
Hi, Leslie, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's wonderful to be having a conversation with you.
It is wonderful. And I know some of our listeners, because we have many listeners in the UK, recognized all those organizations. Those from the US and from other countries don't. But what they can recognize from all of those names and accreditations is that you are not a woman who sits back and lets the status quo reign. You are in there making changes and bringing humanity to business, and that is fascinating to me.
I'm a compulsive change agent, and I've learned over the years to do it as skillfully as possible, and I'm still learning to do that. But yeah, for me, I genuinely want to make the world a better place. I want people in all kinds of organizations in different sectors to be able to bring their whole selves into the workplace and to maximize their creativity and their potential. And so often workplaces do the opposite of that. People feel they have to leave chunks of themselves at home. And I didn't want to. I like having fun. I like working hard. I like achieving. I also like caring about people and a community in which we look after each other. And so for me, my leadership journey has been about, I want all of that. So
Absolutely, because I am a firm believer and have long said women can have everything they desire if we just do one thing, lift one with us as we rise.
absolutely. Absolutely. I've always had women and some men, but mostly women who supported me as a young woman on my path and my journey. And I was so grateful to that. I've learned from some amazing women. And I've always said, thank you so much, and I will pay it forward. I received it and I want to give it to. So my whole life has been about how do I do what I want to do, and how do I support, enable other women around me and those I can have some kind of influence over? How do I raise them up with me, support them, enable them, liberate? You do it for yourself, really, but, co-create an environment. It's really important to me, to support other women constantly. I'm a feminist. So
you're singing my song. You're singing my song.
Yeah.
What are some of the key ways? Because we all have our individual methodologies for lifting one with us as we rise. What are some of your key ways that you have developed for effectively lifting women with you?
One of the things that I've always been explicitly a feminist. I've never hidden my feminism. And so that to me is an explicit statement that I am a woman who sees society through a particular lens, that women are disadvantaged because of their gender within a patriarchal society. Mm-hmm. And I'm very clear about that. I'm overt about it. And so women know when I've entered new organizations or whatever that, oh, this is a woman who loves and supports women.
Yes.
And then that's the general. So if you like, that's giving the permission, the sense to come and talk to me,
Yes.
And so what I've done also is I'm always offering mentorship. I coach women paid wise, but I'm always doing pro bono work and mentoring half a dozen women a year usually, and providing that support, and any experience that I've got will help them. When I became dean of a business school in 1989, I inherited a whole male team. Within 6 months, it was 50-50, women and men. I had loads of flack then. That was like 1990 we were talking about. And I'm like, I am choosing the right people for the jobs. I look for different things as a woman manager than you men look for. So don't come here accusing me of biased and all that kind of stuff. I'm not interested. The answer is I look for different things. and the people I'm appointing have those, and they happen to be women, but they are the best people for the job. So I've consciously made changes in the gender profile of the organizations that I have been the senior leader of. And I have done that consistently in over 17 years of being a chief exec. Totally committed to diversity. So recruitment, appointment, mentoring, providing developmental opportunities, being very explicit about wanting developmental opportunities. I was chief exec of a national leadership centre, and we were quite clear, any disadvantaged groups or groups that weren't well represented, we would offer targeted developmental opportunities to counteract the disadvantages. So I've been very explicit, been heavily criticised for it. And you know what? I don't care, because I think leadership is about doing the right things. And for me, that was always about doing the right things. And women's support groups, going to have support groups for all kinds of different things, but enabling, supporting women to get together, to talk about the issues and to support each other, creating support networks.
Absolutely. Several things I want to go back and unpack that you mentioned. Women hire differently. This is not been understood in terms of its impact, its positive impact in business. We know now, we can hold up the documentation for it. Women have a 70% higher empathy rate than men.
Yeah.
And that has been used against women. Only a few now are starting to realize that this is a super skill.
Yeah.
And to bring women in. And unfortunately, and I'd be interested how this is in the UK. Unfortunately, I see as many women as men demeaning women's place in business and using the old misogynistic language. Women are too emotional. Women are too, it's always too, T-O-O. Women are too, and then fill in the blank. How is that playing out in the UK in terms of progression or in terms of still having its claws dug deeply?
Well, I think you've got an issue. For some women, they've internalized the patriarchal culture.
Yes.
And I remember when I was young, going to women's networks, I'm talking about being in my 20s and 30s now, and older women saying, you've got to be more like the men to be successful, and that's how it is. And myself and others going, no. One, we want it all. And two, I don't want to be more like the men. I want to be a woman leader. And I'm not sure what that means yet, but I'm going to work it out.
Yes.
And I think, right, one of the things that's happened in the UK in certain sectors is the power and importance of emotional intelligence. Research has shown clearly that 80% of outstanding leadership depends on emotional intelligence. So I've used that as a kind of revolutionary way of saying we can all have emotional intelligence, but women can access it more easily. So that actually that shift, Daniel Goleman's work and other work, it really took off in the UK. So actually turning that round and saying emotional intelligence is the key ingredient of outstanding leadership. Therefore, don't let's avoid emotions and start saying women are too emotional. Let's all look at our emotional intelligence. And when I did the work with Hay, I was off the scale I got like these 4 marks in emotional intelligence. And apparently you never got, they made me go and do the test again. And it came up even higher. So in that sense, many women can access their emotional intelligence for all sorts of societal and other reasons. So that's how I've turned it round. It's like, actually, emotions are a key to outstanding leadership. It's all about relationship. When I teach my leadership programs, I always say leadership is contextual. You have to really be on top of the context and understand it. And leadership is relational. You can't do it without good, solid, trusting, high-performing relationships with other people.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly. And you just said two of my keywords that I use over and over and over again when I am working with anyone, but predominantly I work with women. I'm a third generational feminist. I came out of the womb and was handed my card. And so, but trust. Leadership is not dictatorial, or let me correct that. Effective leadership.
Leadership,
not
yes.
Dictatorial.
It can be, but it's not good.
It can be. But the only way to have relationship within a company structure is to have self-trust. The trust has to start way deep inside. And
absolutely.
I truly appreciate your perception and your understanding and languaging of that.
Oh, totally. And I have had to do a lot of work on my own trust basis.
Yes.
My personality structure, I'm very daring. For anybody who knows the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram type 8. So I'm very daring, very courageous, very bold. But my level of trust, my ability to be vulnerable was very low. So I've had to really learn how to allow myself to make mistakes and be vulnerable. And I've had to work very hard on my own inner self-awareness of my relationship to other people and the universe. And the more I have got what in the Ridwan, I'm a Ridwan student, we would call basic trust, i.e. that's core trust.
Right.
The more that I've done work on that, mostly on my spiritual path and sort of therapeutically in that way, the more that I'm able to be a leader that others can trust. It's an inner and outer relationship, because you get a solidity, and I'm extreme theory Y, very high trust. It's only if something happens that I'll intervene. And I've always wanted to stay that way, because I think I know it makes a huge difference. And I cannot bear to be micromanaged. It's like the worst thing you can do to me.
Beat me now. No, it's horrible. It's a horrible thing to have done. And for women who understand how horrible it is to have done to them and have done their emotional balance work, that's
absolutely
key. Then they are never going to pass that forward. They're not going to be micromanaging other people, and that creates a different environment. Now, another thing that I wanted to touch on, because being in so many leadership positions, so many roles of great leadership of many, many individuals, how do you create a foundational initiative for developing a healthy company culture? Because without a healthy company culture, we have nothing.
My experience is you do it through conversations. When I have entered new organizations, I begin conversations, dialogues. Sometimes they're fierce conversations, sometimes they're very caring conversations, but it's conversations that say, what kind of organization do we want to be? What kind of values? I was working with values in the 1990s before it was sexy, and would bring in an external facilitator and sometimes take up to a year to have clarification of values conversations. And to really encourage people to understand their own values and how it aligns with the culture that's already there, or the culture that we're aspiring to co-create together.
Yes.
So it's through those conversations. I've always brought in external facilitators, because then it's done in a way that people can say that their truth and what they really mean and they really feel.
It becomes neutralized in a very safe way of holding everyone.
Yeah. And I've gone into several organizations that have been really toxic and really hurt by the previous chief exec. And I have been quite prepared. And I've said to people, I know that I need to earn your trust. I don't assume it and I don't expect it.
Yeah.
I will give you high trust, but I know what's gone on in this organization before. So watch what I do and look for congruence. And if I say one thing and I'm doing something else, it won't be intentional. Trust me.
Right.
It won't be intentional and it won't be malicious.
Yes.
And it may happen because I go too fast sometimes, and I would list and I'd say,
you're human.
Exactly.
How dare you, Lynne? You're human.
And these are the things that are going to happen. This happened before. I'm doing my best.
That's right.
Yeah. And really give permission. It sounds a bit weird in a way, but I'm literally giving permission to say, hold me to account. Come and talk to me.
And you're giving other people permission to be incongruent and then to come back and not have to make an excuse, to be able to say, oh, that's right. But really, would we be in any field whatsoever? And this is a big hiccup I see with so many people, particularly women. Would we be in any field? Would we be doing anything if there wasn't something to learn from it? Mm-hmm. So therefore, we're not going to be perfect, that ever unattainable state of perfection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to distinguish between making mistakes and learning from them, and no blame culture.
Yes.
And people who don't care and continually don't do things and don't care. So it's like there's a distinction there. So my line is, if I keep messing up over and over again, then I shouldn't be the chief exec, but I will make occasional mistakes. And one of the things I did in one of the colleges I wrote a management charter, and it actually said, these are my duties and my responsibilities, and this is my commitment to you. Mm-hmm. And this is what I would like from you. Mm-hmm. 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 And my senior team went, no, do not put that out. The staff are going to hate it. And I said, you know what? Normally I'd listen to you, but it really matters to me to put this out. And I think it's right. And I'm going with my intuition. And the staff loved it. And then it was like a way that they could articulate how they felt about it, because the culture, people were not stepping up because they were saying, well, we'd have our head chopped off with the last chief exec, we couldn't make a mistake.
That's right.
And it included making mistakes, included learning from them. And that was the first time I did that. And I was glad I did it, because it opened that conversation again. And they were like, oh, well, she wants to be responsible. She's putting stuff in here. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. I learned something similar when I was very, very young in the early 1980s. And I was one of the first women in the executive suite in the great old boys network of oil and gas. Imagine that. Oh, and and here I was, a young thing. But I had an amazing mentor who happened to be the founder of the company. And he would regularly, just as he regularly evaluated us, we would regularly, maybe once every 6 months, 9 months, go to lunch. And he would lead the conversation with, how do you feel I'm not supporting you? And just, let's get it all out, because otherwise, and this is something he told me all the way back then, if you don't hold everyone accountable, what you'll end up with is a culture where everyone is striving for mediocrity just to get by.
Yeah.
And I like you've seen that. Yes.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that's absolutely right. And I've always supported 360-degree feedback processes in organizations, that everybody's getting feedback and responding to that feedback and be seen, to take it seriously, and to do something with it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I know you speak of yourself as being a feminist and being a change agent, but you can't really be a feminist and not be a change agent, can you?
Yes, that's true. That's true, because it's all about changing the oppression and the injustices and fighting and, working for social justice. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And I know you mentioned social justice, marginalized communities, having targeted support for those from marginalized communities. What is your primary focus when developing that type of a targeted program? To explain what I mean, for instance, mine's always inclusivity. I always say that inclusivity will beget diversity, but diversity will not beget inclusivity.
Yeah. No, inclusivity is key. It's a word I've used. I've changed in the times. It was equality, then diversity, and now it's inclusivity. Also, the term that this comes from my childhood. I was in England, like working class, very poor estate, very poor family. But basically, it's about always look for the potential and help that person to maximize it, because I could easily have been written off. If you came from Crackley, you were a thief, or you were thick, or you were brash, or you were just a horrible person. Always vowed that I would never write a single person off, and I would go and work in marginalized and denigrated communities, because I knew what it was like to be part of one and help people to develop their maximum potential, because my parents were devoted to all my sister and my brother going through and getting on and out through education, and that's been my route of business and education.
And how did all of this come together? We have those moments in life when everything comes together. How did all this come together into your book, Goddess Luminary Leadership Wheel? Because at some point, this must have completely coalesced for you to be able to create this book.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been a leadership geek for years. I always say I'm a practitioner scholar. Studied leadership, have been a leader in different contexts, led a national centre where 40,000 leaders came through, so really began to focus on leadership development. I then retired from full-time work. I taught Soul of Leadership with Margaret Benefield from the States. And one day I just woke up and thought, I want to be even more leading edge. I've done all kinds of leadership now, feminist leadership, what isn't in the world? I've spent 10 years studying and immersing myself in goddess spirituality, because I explore different spiritual cosmologies. I can't really find a kind of mix of mainstream and goddess spirituality leadership. So I invented it, and I thought no one would really be interested in it. Honestly, I did it because it was fun.
Right.
And it was my own integration. It was everything that I'd learned and done put through a shamanic wheel of the year, with ceremony, with shamanic ritual and exercises, through the lens of goddess spirituality, because to image the divine for me is a radical disruptive feminist act, and I wanted to do that. And then to enable people who normally wouldn't access leadership development to actually look at leadership in a new way. And literally the people who come to me want something different. And I've run 3 spiral 1s now, about to recruit for a 4th, and a spiral 2, about just recruited for another spiral 2. So there's real interest. And in lockdown, I had more time. The course had to go online, and the book flowed through me. And it's been very popular, and it's bringing more people's interest to my work. So I think I'm doing something that's right on the edge, and is also very grounded and very thorough. Yeah.
It's always the person who is willing to ride the edge
Yes. Yeah.
that has the potential to bring something revelatory. So thank you and congratulations and all great success to you with this.
Thank you.
And for all of you out there listening, now listen, I'm going to do for you what I always do for you. I'm going to put Lynne's URL. I'm going to put her link to her book. I'm going to put her contact information so that you can speak with her or communicate with her directly. I'm going to put all her social media links on there so that you can be in touch with her directly. And then, of course, when you go to YouTube and watch this video, because I know some of you are currently listening to it while you're jogging on your phones, when you go to YouTube, leave a comment. We always make sure that our guests receive those comments. So like, subscribe, share, leave a comment for Lynne. We will do everything we can to make sure that you can connect with this wonderful woman and her powerful work. Lynne, thank you so much for being with us today. And I know our listeners all got something that they can take with them and look at life, look at themselves just a little differently.
I hope so. And I thank you so much for showing interest, Leslie. And I think your work is awesome. I think it's absolutely fantastic what you're doing with these podcasts. And it feels a real privilege to be part of one of them. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you. Now, listeners, as to that little bit that you got, it's not going to do you any good if you stick it in your pocket and don't find it till next winter. Right? So activate. Write it down somewhere where you'll forget about it, and then you'll come across it in a couple of days. And when you revisit that, how can you take that into your life? How can you use what you learned from Lynne today to inch forward? Maybe a little bit, maybe a lot. But activate. Don't just go to the next thing and forget all about it. Thank you for being with us. Again, like, subscribe, and share. Who do you know? Who do you know who Lynne's work will speak to specifically? Share this podcast with her. Be a good woman friend. And as you go through the rest of your day, I want to remind you, you are stronger and wiser than you know.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you received inspiration for expanding your own social innovation and influence. Help us inspire others by sharing this episode and leaving your comments over at lesliemichaels.com/podcast. For more tips, insights, and support in creating a fully audacious, professional, and personal lifestyle you love, visit our Women We Should Know community on Facebook.